Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a critical, yet often totally invisible reality: educator mental wellness, and a highly proactive solution specifically for Georgia schools. In that crazy rush of back-to-school prep, basically all of our energy goes toward getting ready for the students. But today, before the kids even arrive, we're going to have a really serious conversation about the adults.
So let's just get right into it and talk about that heavy, unseen backpack our teachers carry over from the previous school year. We are asking our educators to be the absolute rock, the steady adult in the room for upwards of 150 kids, every single day. But honestly, ask yourself, who is studying the teachers? They're constantly returning to their classrooms with literally nowhere to put all that emotional weight they've accumulated. And guys, that is a really precarious way to kick off a new academic year. Section 1. The weight teachers carry and those unseen burdens.
It's absolutely crucial we recognize that our educators are walking into this new year already carrying the unresolved baggage of the last one. We love to think of a new school year as this totally clean slate, right? But human psychology just doesn't work like that. Look at the massive disconnect between what we think teaching is and what it has actually become. Our expectation is that the job is delivering lesson plans, grading papers, teaching the academics, but the reality on the ground? We're asking educators to function as de facto first responders to student mental health crises. They are spending countless hours de-escalating conflicts and absorbing student trauma, and doing the whole shebang without the clinical training or support they desperately need to process it safely.
Moving on to Section 2, compassion fatigue and trauma. We really need to put a clinical name to what happens after this repeated exposure to unyielding crises. We have to move past the everyday buzzword of burnout and get into actual psychology here. Because absorbing stories that you literally cannot unhear, that isn't just standard workplace stress, it's secondary trauma. When a teacher listens to a student navigating a profound personal crisis, that teacher's nervous system absorbs a piece of that shock. Day after day, year after year, this builds up into secondary traumatic stress and compassion fatigue. It is a genuine, heavy emotional toll. It is absolutely not a personal failing.
So the big question is, what does this actually look like day to day? Picture a highly dedicated superstar teacher who used to effortlessly connect with the toughest kids. Suddenly, they find themselves withdrawing, wrapped up in cynicism. They start getting this heavy, visceral dread on Sunday evenings that goes way beyond your typical weekend blues, and it's often accompanied by very real physical symptoms, like tension headaches or insomnia. This is exactly what compassion fatigue looks like in the wild.
Section 3. Why our standard responses fail and exactly where they fall short. Look, if we know this trauma is happening, we have to admit that our traditional safety nets for staff are completely missing the mark. Tossing a one-off wellness day at the problem, sticking an impersonal 1-800 number up in the break room, and just crossing our fingers that a 2-month summer break will magically cure clinical exhaustion, it just doesn't work. The depletion is absolutely still there. Those EAP numbers largely go uncalled, and by the time August rolls around, the burnout hasn't reset at all. Let's look at Section 4, the math behind staff retention and the true cost.
This isn't just about empathy anymore. Burnout-driven attrition directly costs money. It's a chain reaction. It starts with unaddressed burnout, which inevitably forces turnover and attrition, and as we know, replacing educators is incredibly expensive. But it goes way beyond just the dollars. It destabilizes entire school buildings. And ultimately, the real victims here are the students, who get robbed of that essential continuity with the trusted adults who know them best.
There is a quote here that really hits the nail on the head. Staff wellness is not a perk you add if there is budget left. It is the thing that determines whether the best teachers are still there in March. Just let that sink in for a second. It completely reframes wellness from this optional, if the budget allows luxury, into the absolute fundamental bedrock of keeping your staff. Bottom line, if you want your best people around in the spring, you have to support them in the fall.
Section 5, barrier-free mental health support with MentalSpace School. So how do we actually lower the barrier to get meaningful clinical support to these dedicated professionals? How do we get past the dusty 1-800 number flyer? By bringing in MentalSpace School to totally remove the friction. Check this out. There are 0 waitlists, staff get same-day teletherapy, it's entirely confidential, meaning they don't have to risk disclosing their struggles to a colleague or their principal, and they use the exact same unified, licensed team that serves the students. Nobody has to navigate a complicated, separate system just to get the help they deserve. Operationally speaking, MentalSpace School is a total game changer. It's fully HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so privacy is an absolute guarantee. It completely wipes out the financial barrier by accepting major insurances and even working with Medicaid for literally $0 out of pocket. Plus, it hooks them up with licensed, diverse, and culturally competent therapist teams, ensuring that every single educator can find a professional they genuinely connect with. Finally, Section 6. Implementing MentalSpace before day one. Because timing is everything. Listen, having an amazing system is really only half the battle here. Implementing this before day one guarantees teachers have the support they need way before the crises actually begin. Think about it. If you get this proactive support locked in over the summer, your staff walk in on day one with a massive safety net already firmly beneath them. But if you wait until mid-year to figure this out, it is simply too late. They're already running on empty, completely depleted, and you're stuck playing defense instead of offense. Reaching out to MentalSpace School right now is the very first tangible step in making sure your absolute best teachers are still thriving in your classrooms come March. You can secure this vital support for your staff today just by visiting mentalspaceschool.com, or go ahead and shoot an email to mentalspaceschool@chicktherapy.com. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to really chew on. What is the true cost to your students, to your building's overall stability, and to your budget if you decide to wait until mid-year to support the adults in your building? Seriously, think about the huge cost of inaction before those doors even open for the new academic year. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, here is to a healthier, much more supported school year for everyone.